I want to welcome you to our pattern breaking room program for today. So, today we are looking at how to stop difficult people who don't respect your boundaries from draining you. Now, I know sometimes we don't like to think of people as difficult people, but the reality is that many people in our lives are just plain difficult and can be hard to work with. Even more so if you're an empath, because at your core, you just mean well for people. And so you go about trying to interact with people from that point of view of just having a clear conscience, a clear heart, a clear wish for people. And it can be a little bit jarring when you just notice that people are not all like that. Um, there are people who are just out there, either because of some experiences they've had, they've become so hard-hearted that they are thinking about how they protect themselves, what they get for themselves, and can be quite difficult. And maybe some people, they are difficult just because they are so unaware of how they carry themselves and how they um, affect other people around them. So, as an empath, you're left in a situation where you are often trying to, not wanting to hurt someone else's feeling, but not knowing exactly what to do to sort of protect your own heart from being trampled upon as well. I don't know if you can relate with this out here.
Yeah, definitely. I think even from a workplace point of view, which I tend to do, it's almost like sometimes again you don't really want to rock the boat either. You sometimes it could be down to hierarchy, and you think, oh, actually maybe because that person's more senior than me, maybe I can't speak up or say anything.
Hmm.
Especially when that person is like the difficult person. Um, and yeah, I think it's just when it comes down to dealing with people, whether you're inside the workplace, outside the workplace, that there could be like a real um, breakdown in boundaries, breakdown in communication, and it just affects people in different ways. It affects how you respond to people, what you feel obligated to do, and um, and again, it's breaking old or existing habits.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely.
Also.
So who is this for today? So this is for you if you have often found yourself thinking, um, you have to deal with someone who you just constantly have to brace yourself for. Um, Maybe they're gonna send you a text, or you just know that. Do you want to really open that person's text or email, because it's going to be something that will come across at you that's going to either push your boundaries, push your buttons. Um, this is for you if you found yourself often being dealing with someone who you're often the one just constantly giving to, and you're trying to figure out how you can be a friend still without necessarily being completely broken by this person. Um, this is for you if you have like a family member who maybe it could be your son, your daughter, your brother, sister, mom or dad, who are just a pain to be around, but you can't actually do anything to cut away from them completely because of the nature of the relationships that you have. And maybe you don't even want to cut away from them, but you want to learn a way for them to stop causing you pain. And when I say causing pain, um, there's some people that it can just leave you in a place of stress and pain for days. To just say one word, it just cuts at you, and you just find yourself seething from it. You don't want to cause them pain back, but they always leave you in this kind of state. Um, So the goal here would be developing a system to help kind of protect yourself um, from people who maybe they didn't want to take too much of you, and a system that will help you protect yourself from people who often just leave you emotionally drained. Now, there's something that I did say last week that that will cover this week, which was to do with the tactical empathy. But after going through the content I had planned for this week, I thought bringing in a tactical empathy will be way too heavy and be too much. But if people are still interested in learning about tactical empathy, we may just do a session specially for how to master tactical empathy, because I believe, from my perspective, I believe that it's perhaps the king of strategies when you have to deal with difficult people. But a lot of what we're going to be covering today, it will give you powerful ways of being able to shield yourself while dealing with difficult people. So I hope then that as we go through this today, you may have questions, anything you have, just please don't feel afraid to ask your questions. You can use the mic if you feel able to, or just type up your questions in the chat. I will pick it up and answer as we go through the session today. You've already heard Althea, and I will just going to give the mic over to Althea now to introduce herself.
Okay, thank you very much, Wally. Thank you again for inviting me onto your platform as well to be a part of it as well as share. And just before I introduce myself, it's interesting me you was just talking about empathy, because when I was listening to who it was for, I always feel like, oh my goodness, I'm on the couch go through these sessions. But I always say that I'm like a self-confessed recovering people pleaser. And I definitely would say it's because of misplaced empathy, and definitely giving people empathy that they really didn't deserve. And at those particular levels. So yeah, I think I would definitely encourage you to probably do a separate session on that as well, because I feel like a lot of people definitely fall into that trap and putting other people before themselves as well. So who am I? I am Althea Blake. I am also known as the corporate doctor. I'm actually a workforce strategist. I don't just treat the symptom, I diagnose the cause. And although I say doctor, I just want to make sure you know that I haven't actually got like a doctorate or anything like that. It's like a brand name is what I do. And so, I bridge the gap for senior leaders at future ready organizations by preparing the early career talent for the workplace. And then I actually prepare the workplace to receive the early careers. And I do this using my frameworks called SHOTS and Decelerate to Accelerate, working very closely with senior leaders of those organizations. What I do is really support in the area of team collaboration, onboarding, retention strategies, and also specialize in integrating Gen Z into multi-generational teams for sustainable careers. As we go through this session today, my focus or perspective will definitely be more on the side of the workplace dynamics, and how that might look between maybe a manager and their peers and colleague relationships as well, not just personal ones. So I'm glad to be here. So thank you again, Wally.
Thanks for coming, and thanks for giving us your time and your much precious time. So my name is Adewale. I'm a licensed consultant psychotherapist, the founder of StressTherapist.net, and I've just started talking to Althea earlier on. I think almost 15 years ago, we were doing different programs together. But the core of what I've been doing over the last 30 years been working, supporting people with different mental health, emotional difficulties, things like depression, things like anxiety, things like personality difficulties. So being able to kind of help support people with my 4 forces framework, which is a system that helps people to stop just surviving and actually begin to thrive in life. So, as you know, we've been running this pattern room programs. You should have gotten some emails from me asking for your opinions on names to call ourselves because I've been thinking of something that would help to empower people. Because you know how we are often the society has this process where they just put you in a diagnosis. So you end up finding yourself thinking like I'm that person who struggles with trauma. I'm that person who struggles with anxiety. I'm that person, and that starts to become a part of our personality. So that email I sent was trying to hope to get us to be able to name ourselves in a different way that feels like a triumphant approach to thinking of this journey of becoming someone who has broken through all the emotional barriers that life has caused. So the passion I have is helping people learn to really understand and see these different patterns that break our ability to survive properly in life. That we live life just kind of okay, almost like we're sacrificing everything it's almost like we're on a journey that is being colored by just surviving. Um, I want us to start being people whose life is being colored by the colorful realities that life can bring, the beautiful things life can bring. So that's really where my passion is. And as I've been saying, that behind the scenes, I've been developing a system where just combining AI, psychotherapy, and neuroscience, which will give people tools for helping themselves to learn. So self-learning tools that keep you aware of what it is you're doing that may be causing you to get stuck in negative cycles, and give you tools that will help you know exactly how to keep out of those negative loops. So I hope that kind of makes sense. But this is just me and Althea. I'll go into the presentation. So quite often when we're thinking of difficult people, there's often a tendency to think that we have just these two options. Um, when I speak of difficult people on Facebook, for example, our people would often respond and say, I just cut them off. I just have nothing to do with them. Sometimes that is an option. But what if this difficult person is your son? What if this difficult person is your spouse, your daughter? Or even if you have separated from the person, maybe you've divorced, but you had children with this person. What if this difficult person is your grandchildren? What if this difficult person is your grandparent? So you have a situation where there are certain situations where you cannot completely cut off from this person. So do we just have these two options? Just keep enduring, or just cut off? I'm just saying, is somebody saying something? Tara, what if there's a family member who means well, they use religion, but when it's supposed to help, it hurts. When it's supposed to calm and comfort, not threaten either. Would look forward to a workshop like this, perhaps in the near future. Yeah. So I think it can be even more painful when the family member, they seem to be coming from a place of care, but the different approaches they are using are stinging approaches. I don't know if you can relate much to that, Althea.
Yeah, definitely. Again, from the workplace point of view, as well, it's difficult to, you have a difficult situation at work. It could be ongoing. It could seem like it could be bullying or anything else, or you could just be overworked, feeling really overwhelmed, and you'll just have you'll share it with your friends and family, and they'll just say, "Why don't you just leave?" Like it's the easiest thing to do, or they might just say, "Oh, well, you just have to," and then your thing might be, "I'm just going to have to stick it out." So just in terms of there seeming like there's only two options, they're always the ones that just come up at the forefront of people's mind. They think I've only have two options. I can either walk away or I have to stay and face it.
Yeah.
And then it's black or white and no in between. So I would definitely see it from that point of view.
Exactly. Cool. Right. So yeah, are those the only options? Enduring or leaving? I would say there's a third option, and that is find a way to stay connected, but adding a shield. Adding a shield. And a lot of what we're going to be doing today is helping you know how to install that shield. And again, relating to what Tara said earlier on, you have this person who loves you, who seems to love you, but their approaches are always painful. I mean, if sometimes you have a person who would say to you, I'm only saying this because I care. And you'll be saying in your own mind that I wish you wouldn't care that much, because that care that you're giving me at the moment is painful. So how do we install a shield that, yeah, it's not necessarily meant to change the person? Because if you try to engage your whole life trying to change a difficult person, trying to make them less difficult, you're going to really suffer if you try to do that. Because if you think about me as a therapist, I've been doing working with different people, trying to help people change for over 30 years now, and perhaps took me 3, 4, 5 years of training. And even after the training and years of working, some difficult people might still take me about a year or two to get them to really shift. Talking about difficult people. So anyone trying to put energy in getting the difficult people to be less difficult, that's a losing battle to start off with. Because there's just so many layers to this to make it work. So instead of trying to do that, we're looking at how you can be around that person without them inflicting as much pain as they usually do on you. So I want you to take on board that your kindness as an empathetic person is not a flaw. Why am I harping on that? So many times I see people who, because they've been kind, and then they've been walked all over because of their kindness, they then flipped the complete opposite side, because they've decided that my problem was my kindness. My problem was because I was so kind, people thought that they could take advantage of me and they could hurt me. Like, so I'm going to be this hard and unkind person, and then you end up being somebody you never really want to be. Someone who just becomes bitter, somebody just becomes a horrible person, and unfortunately starts to become like those difficult people that you were trying to avoid in the first place. So our goal here is not to switch off your ability to feel supportive, to support other people, to be kind. Our goal here is to help you figure out how to stop them from hurting you whilst you're still having the kindness, to be the kind person you are. Cool. So for today, we have 6 shields to share. And I'm also wondering that out here, this literally puts you in it, if you don't mind. When you were just reviewing the work we have for today, I'm just wondering, did any of the 6 shields jump out at you first of all?
Interesting. Did any?
Am I putting you on the spot?
Yeah, but that's okay.
Okay.
I don't think any did jump out. I thought they were all relatable, but I think I kind of looked at when I was looking at them for a change. I kind of like separated myself from them and kind of like just really kind of looked at them from somebody else's perspective. So in that sense, I wouldn't say any jumped out at me more at the moment.
Okay.
But we might go across and I'll be like, oh yeah, there was this one. But at the moment, I can say no. They all were just kind of like relatable on an even pay, if that makes sense.
It makes sense. Makes sense. Yes. So the first one, before I just show you what the first one is, I want you to think of it like this. You know, whenever we are outside and it's about to rain, and it starts to just pour and shower, is it possible for us to for us to just go outside and it's raining? We don't have an umbrella. We don't have any way of covering ourselves. Is it possible for us to not be soaked by the rain? I know people who think, what a question to ask. Is it obvious? Why do you think I'm asking that question? Let me see what people think about that. Why do you think I'm asking that question? And what could that have to do with difficult people? What are people's thoughts? Oh, Michelle's gave a group name, Renewing Minds, Hearts and Souls. Okay. I'm going to add all of this to the list. Oh, hi, Emmanuel. Great to have you on board. If that person's an adopted mother, how do you handle her? Adopted mother. Are we talking about mother-in-law there? Or is it really?
Yeah, I'm asking some of this question for somebody who has got who's adopted mother, but yeah, so I'm just asking for somebody who
Oh, I see.
asked this question when I show her this topic.
I guess she might have been thinking about, or should we even be thinking about how to manage these people? Should we just not cut away from them?
It becomes very difficult to cut them off, is it?
Yeah, it becomes very difficult to cut them off. Definitely, yes. So just kind of with everybody again now. So in terms of the rain, being outside in the rain, is it possible to be outside in the rain and not be soaked by rain if you don't have an umbrella or have a raincoat?
No.
What are all your takes, Michelle? You want to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say that but my brain's just gone menopausal. Yes, you can't. Some people you can't avoid them. So, you can't avoid the weather. Sometimes you have to go out in the weather to get from A to B. So, and I'm assuming you're saying there's some toxic people you just can't avoid being in the same sphere. They're going to lash out at you. They're going to upset you. They're going to wet you up. But you're going to provide the umbrella and you're going to provide the boots, the wellies, and you're going to provide the raincoat. I hope that's what you're about to do.
Yeah, thank you very much. So yes, you definitely on the right track there. And the reason here being that people would often think that, yes, all I have to do is avoid difficult people and I'm good. As much as I avoid difficult people, so they spend a lot of their life avoiding difficult people, but then there are a few things that happens here. One is that you never get to learn the tools for managing difficult people just because you avoid them. And you don't realize that you are missing out on the tools. The only time the tools, it becomes very obvious is when you get stuck with a difficult person you can't avoid. So thinking that um, I can just avoid them all the time. It's almost like thinking that I can avoid rain without having the umbrella, without having a coat. So again, just like Michelle said there. So what I want us to do is to kind of flip our minds into this zone of, okay, even if my goal is to avoid difficult peoples, I need to still be able to equip myself with the tools for being able to manage difficult people just in case they come my way. But also, whenever I'm going out and I notice that it's about to rain, I just go and take my coat. I just go and take my tools that I already have for protecting myself from the rain. So really, what are we saying here? So you may be like, maybe you were going to visit your sister, and your sister happens to be a difficult person. Or your sister's spouse happens to be a difficult person. Usually what people would do is just go and not necessarily prepare. All we're just saying is that now the idea would be you go with an umbrella to that difficult person, so that when that difficult person's ways that caused pain start to pour, you've got the umbrella that's sort of protecting you. I don't know, Athia, what are you taking from what I'm saying here so far?
Yeah. So my take on that is the umbrella is there to protect you from the rain, and the rain is again, I'm taking it from a workplace context. From a workplace context, that rain could be somebody's attitude or somebody's, as you said, you called it rage. So sometimes you might have a manager who's giving you some instruction to do something, but they're under a lot of pressure. And so what comes out is not just the instruction of, this is what I need you to do. You get all their frustrations with it. And often what they're giving you isn't even your job. And most of the time you're thinking, well, that's not even my responsibility, but you're not even taking the instruction of, well, that's not my responsibility. You're taking on board the emotion of how the tone was really, how it was delivered to you, the tone that they use. So now that you're taking that away and you're holding on to that for days, just because you're upset with what they said, how they said it, and you're not realizing that actually, where is that actually coming from? And if you put up your umbrella of protection, this is my interpretation, if you put up your umbrella of protection to say, actually, and I mean, even when you're out in the rain and you put your umbrella up, there are drops of rain that will come on you. Yeah, we're not always 100% protected by the rain. So it's almost like the parts that do drop on you, it's almost like you interpret them or take them as you want, or you can just brush them off and say, this isn't for me. I'm going to continue almost with my day, and I'm not going to take that personally, because often the things that we take personal are not personal at all. That manager's gone about his day now, forgotten that he's even spoken to you because he's now offloaded. He feels okay, but you've chosen to take that offload. You've chosen to take that ray instead of putting the umbrella up and say, that is not for me.
Right.
I know that was long-winded.
No, not long-winded at all. It's perfect. Yes. So really what we're trying to kind of say here is we have a mental shift where within your mind, you are going to that person with a sense that, okay, this person's rain might pour on me. This person's anger, rage, whatever it is, might pour on me. My goal is to not take it up personally and say this is just their stuff, so that so it's good to just have that image of the umbrella in your head as you're going to deal with this person. And so with the umbrella, as you can see here, we have the umbrella and the glass. umbrella and the glass. So they are somewhat similar, except for the glass. The glass, you can still see the person, but you're behind the glass. Yes, obviously it's not a real glass, but in your mind, you're taking it almost like there's a glass here. You can say things, you can do things. I will not take it on board as it's mine. I know this is easier said than done when we haven't really embedded the ability to not take things personally. But the goal here is that we begin to think this person has a particular type of behavior. It's just what they do and how they are. And reality is that behavior quite often may not just be against you. There's other people that get wetted, if you could say that, by this person's reign. I'm just now beginning to hold an umbrella to them. So that's the first technique. Now, the way we're going to go about.
Well, can I just jump in?
Go
And just,
ahead.
in terms of like, just because you know that's how somebody is and that's how they behave and that's their behavior, that's not a clause to accept it. You know, it's just it's like almost like the first step in recognizing, okay, that's how they are, that's how they behave. It's not necessarily a reflection on me or something that I'm doing. Again, back to that, taking it personal, but it's not, again, to say it's acceptable how they behave. I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, I think that's very important. We're not saying that we put ourselves in places to be abused, but part of the reason why the glass is here is that you're putting things in place to prevent the abuse from happening, or for at least from getting to a point where it's really getting detrimental to you. Someone may voice abuse at you. You can bat that back and not even take it on board. But if someone decides to beat you up, to take a knife, like that's not really even something we should take. In that case, we'll be saying walk away and move away. So thank you, Althea, for kind of highlighting that. We're not suggesting people stay in an abusive situation. But where we have these situations where you cannot necessarily cut them off. And again, I think we should say that abuse is on a range, on a continuum, isn't it? There's things that could be manipulative and painful, but there's things that could be even life-threatening. So we need to be mindful that the life-threatening one, all the strategies we're talking about here, we do not use them for that. I think that's very important. Thank you. So what we're saying here, we're now giving you a set of 6 strategies that we're going to embed. The goal is embedding them to the point that you can be able to live life in a way that you are not being overwhelmed by this difficult person. So the second one is what I call the beige wall. Now, for those of you who attended last week's session, there was another strategy we called the broken record. The broken record and the beige wall, they have some similarities. And the goal of the beige wall is this. Now, most difficult people, they like drama. When I say drama, that's clear what that means. They like things to be dramatic. So if you give them drama, then they're going to bite more, they're going to engage more, they're going to do more things to hurt because they're ones who constantly try to one-up you. If you know about how bullies react, because most bullies, when a bully sees somebody who reacts to their behavior, they come back to that person all the time. When a bully sees someone who just ignores them and doesn't really show them that they are hurt, not just show them any emotion, doesn't show them anything, there's a tendency for them to then just give up and just walk away. So the idea of the beige wall is when you have a difficult person, one of your most winning tactics is to be as bland as possible. As bland, which means whenever you give an answer, your answer must try to be as neutral as possible whenever you give a response to anything that's painful that comes from them, as calm as possible, as neutral as possible, not carrying any sort of leaning, not trying to kind of react back. I know this can be painful because quite often what happens is we feel it's not fair. What this person is doing is not fair. I need to give them a piece of my mind. But then we enter that cycle. It's a never-ending cycle. And unfortunately, most of these types of difficult people, they've had a lifetime of mastering the techniques of one-upping you. So it's a very, very painful road to travel. Arthur, do you have any points to make about the beige wall?
Definitely. I think with the beige wall, again, it's very much how I remember when I was going through this, I was actually thinking of a time when I was at school, as much as I think about workplaces, but I remember there was a time when I was maybe I was about 11, maybe it was my first year or second year at school. I think it was second year actually, and there was a year above of girls that constantly just kept bullying me. And I know you're probably thinking, Alfie, you were bullied? Yes, I was bullied. So I just remember there was this period where they just constantly really wanted to get a rise out of me, and I just wouldn't really give it to them. But I remember I was always late in the mornings, and they were the door monitor for where I needed to go through to get to my classroom. So to avoid them, I could go the long way round and go through the field just to get to the classroom, or just go through them. And I remember there was like 3 or 4 of them on this door. And they wasn't physically bullying me. And I can't even remember if they were verbally or if it was just like their presence was quite threatening. And I just remember this day, I was just like, I cannot be later than I am. I am not walking around to that field. I'm going through this door. And I remember I just walked up to the door, and it's like you could just see them see me coming, and were like smiling and speaking to each other of whatever terror they was just going to plant on me that day. And I remember I just walked up to them and I was like, can you open the door? I need to walk through. And I think they were just so shocked that, one, I even spoke to them, and 2, that I kind of like looked, I didn't kind of like look away. I kind of like spoke right into their face and said, look, can you open the door? I need to pass. And I remember they just opened the door and let me through. And after that, either they didn't bother me, or as in they didn't bully me, or I wasn't bothered by their presence anymore. And so that kind of like fizzled out. But when I think about the workplaces, it's very similar. You get people that really do play to what they call your weaknesses, and whether that could be that you're quiet in a meeting, whether that could be you don't want to speak up. They give you work, you don't say no, and they like that. And so they want to even humiliate you in front of a lot of people as well. And sometimes you have to just go up to them like quietly. There's no point approaching them in front of everybody and responding to them, because they like that drama. They like to be able to respond and put you down. Sometimes you do have to, I've dealt with people where they've said actually they've had to go and have a quiet word, say, look, this isn't acceptable how you're treating me or how you're treating our colleagues. And although that person has still come back and behaved the same way, they've actually calmed down. And it's almost like the way they've come back and not responded calmly the first time is they're kind of like making a point, as if to say, oh, you didn't scare me, or I'm not threatened by you. But they then have kind of like towed the line. So again, because they didn't do it in front of somebody to make a big drama out of it, that person wasn't able to feed off of that energy and continue to humiliate them.
Yes. I think, Terrell, you said, or don't just give an answer and it just bounces off you like a ball. I mean, some situations, definitely just being quiet could be the way out. Yeah. All we're just saying is, in these situations, as long as you think, just answer calmly. Don't be emotionally irate. Don't go on the defensive. Definitely don't go on the defensive, because then that's a big one that they hang on. And don't see this as being the weaker one. In fact, this is the flip in the mind that you actually see it that actually you being this way, this is actually being the stronger one. Because if you think about it, the situations where you've gotten angry, you've defended yourself, gotten back, the situation just got worse, and then you go away and kicking yourself. Why did you even bite? So the more we get of just being that beige wall, you're actually being the stronger one. And just as Arthur has said, you notice a situation where they come back, still try to attack you a little bit, but you notice that the energy starts to fuse out if you keep on this approach. So that's the beige wall. So the next one is the fire drill. You may have watched the video I sent over during the week. I know the idea of the fire drill is that when you are thinking of a fire, when you have a fire, you don't necessarily try to plan how you escape a fire in the middle of a fire. You tend to plan how to escape a fire before a fire ever happens. And that's why in different organizations, there's always these fire drills that happen. I think this is something that, for me, it was a shock the first time I had that experience, because coming from Nigeria, we don't do any kind of fire drills. So fire drills. But here, you come to the shop and I had this, I don't know, I'm so, but I hadn't had the training yet in this particular organization. But most organizations, what happens is the first 2 weeks, it becomes one of the training you must have. So, but the reason they do the fire training is so that when fire happens, reality, you are not, you are prepared. Because if you are trying to prepare for a fire in the middle of a fire, the panic you're experiencing, chances are that's going to make you do the wrong thing. So you repeat fire drills until it just becomes what you do. So when fire happens, you just do what you do. The same way, when we are dealing with difficult people, we don't start trying to learn what to do or design how to react in the moments that they are being difficult, which is often what people do. You spend a lot of your life, no, this person is difficult, but you never spend any time sitting down and thinking, okay, how do I manage this person? What do I do, A, B, C, D, or to manage this person? How do I embed that in myself so that when I'm with this person, I just implement these strategies? So things we've been talking about already, the umbrella, the glass, the beige wall, these are things that we can practice and it becomes part of who we are. So when I say practice, like you could have a friend who role plays with you. If you say you have a manager who's difficult, you get a friend to role play this difficult manager with you. If you don't have a friend who can role play with you, you got AI these days that can role play this people. I think there was a series where we walked through how to use AI for dealing with difficult managers earlier. So you can watch the videos on how to do that. But the idea here is, before the incidents, when the people are being toxic with you, you've already embedded the practice. You've already practiced it to the point that it's a muscle memory. So when you are in that situation, you are prepared. And this is the importance of the fire drill. Without the fire drill, no strategy works. And that's very important. When you embed things with the fire drill, the strategies that you felt will never work will easily work. I think last week we talked about the mental muscle that we are practicing to make it happen. Okay, so that's the fire drill. Now this next one, it's very important because what tends to happen is in a person's life, the person who is most difficult in your life can often take over everything. So I call this one the garden trap. And you can see in this slide, I've got this lady watering the dying plants. Looking at that as a metaphor, how might that show up, let's say, in a family with siblings and a parent focusing on perhaps one of the difficult siblings, how might that show up in that kind of a context? Let's see what suggestions people have. Just type if you want, or if you feel happy to use the mic, feel free to respond.
You might find the other sibling, holding resentment and making statements like, that's your favorite child.
Yes, definitely. So you have the situation where the difficult person becomes the focus of the parents. They keep watering that difficult person because they're trying to get that difficult person in order. But the reality often is the other children are there actually giving love and being good, but they don't get the attention as much. But then looking at yourself too, do you find that the difficult people in your life are taking too much of your attention? Are you giving as much effort and attention to people who are pouring blessings and good into your life? So the idea of the garden crop is that we are all often focusing heavily on the place where we feel danger is coming from. But that focus causes us to neglect the place where we already have a lot of good stuff coming from. You may have a friend who's a very good influence on you, but you're not spending as much energy back on that person as you're spending on this person who is difficult. It may be that you're spending energy because you are just overthinking this person, or you're hoping that your kindness will help this person to just be a better person. Arthur, do you take anything from here?
Definitely. I think I would take it again just from the workplace point of view. I think that, when you have those difficult people within your team, managers then tend to spend a lot of time firefighting and giving them all the attention. And while those other people who are getting on with their work, doing what they need to do, but maybe not getting recognition, maybe not getting the support they need, that they kind of like will just silently just leave, or call it quiet quitting, where they'll sit at their desk and they just won't engage. They'll do just enough to get their paycheck at the end of the month and just not get them fired. And you tend to see this a lot. And also what tends to happen is managers will spend a lot of attention with those loud characters because they might be getting the results. They might be the ones who are facing the clients and keeping the clients on board and making the company money. So at the same time, they don't necessarily want to rock the boat with them. So it makes it very difficult for you as an individual who is like getting on with your role, and you can see that this person is turning up for meetings late, or they're taking over meetings. And so, you then shrink, and instead of like, as you say, coming prepared to like deal with them, you then shrink and kind of like just let it like go under the carpet, almost like, just brush it under the carpet and just think, well, if I keep my head down, I'd do my job, or I'll just leave. Almost like back to earlier, well, do I put up with it or do I just go? You don't see that middle ground.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And there is a dynamic that is important to also be aware of when we're dealing with difficult people. Now, many difficult people know that they're doing this. Many may not even realize they're doing this, but the dynamic is still present. And the dynamic is like, if I am difficult to you, and then I give you a little niceness, I keep you thirsty for the niceness. So, but I keep you thirsty for the niceness because you often think, oh, this person can be nice. So you're hoping that they'll be nice again, and then they just be difficult again. So it's almost like you never really are able to tell what you're going to get. But that puts you in almost like a gambling mode, where you know how when you're gambling, just putting the slot, the penny in, the pound in, and you're hoping to get it. But it's that dopamine push that you're going to get the win, keeps you trying again. Unfortunately, that same dynamic is happening here with a difficult person. And because you are not seeing it, it's actually causing you to spend more energy and time on that difficult person, hoping that you're going to get a good reaction, a nice experience. So it's important to kind of realize that is happening. And it's important to actually spend time thinking, okay, who are the people in my life that are pouring goodness into me? And start to water those people back. Because those people form the foundation that hold you up as a person. If you have those types of people, it's a blessing that you should not take for granted. And unfortunately, having difficult people in our life can make us take those people for granted. So, and this is why we call it a garden trap, because you don't recognize it's happening. But if it's happening, it's time to start watering those other people. I'm hoping that all makes sense. I can see the value of these strategies as we're going through them. Now, the next one, I call the broken thermostat. And with this one, there's often a tendency as an empath to blame yourself for most things. So you see something that's going on. Sometimes even when it has nothing to do with you, you already blame yourself. So when it has to do with you and there's a reaction the person is giving to you, a tendency is to blame yourself. And when you think of a concept of a broken thermostat, a broken thermostat won't be giving you the correct gauges of what the atmosphere is really like. So the atmosphere may be completely cold and it's showing you that it's very hot. The atmosphere may be completely hot and it's showing you that it's very cold. In other words, you cannot trust a broken thermostat. So if you know your thermostat is broken, you just in your mind just know you can't trust it. Now, unfortunately, the reality of a lot of difficult people is that they are all acting like broken thermostats. For whatever reason, the things in their lives that they've gone through cause them to react in unexpected and opposite ways to how people would usually react. So for example, you may have someone who's a difficult person who you've just gone and you thought, oh, maybe this person is coming home. Maybe the person was your spouse. This person is coming home just to make their life easier. I'm just going to make sure the house is really clean, clear the table, cook the best dish that they will love, and present it to them. So this person comes home. They don't even notice the house is done and clean. They go sit down, eat the food. They don't even say anything to you. They just go straight to their bed and they go to sleep. In your mind, you'll be thinking, what on earth? See all the effort I placed there. But because this person has a broken thermostat, they cannot react in the ways you expect them to react. Just wondering, does that make sense what I'm describing here, Matthew?
Definitely. And again, it's about not taking other people's behaviors and almost like reactions on board. Don't take it personally. It's down to them. It's down to their level of self-awareness or lack of. And that's why we all need to work on our own level of self-awareness as well to understand, okay, it's not a me problem. It's a them problem. That's fine. That's an extra meal for me. That's how I would see it. I can eat extra to that. But it really is okay. But I think this is the thing. I think we tend to take things personally all the time. Any reaction from someone, we make a lot of effort. And so we feel that it should be reciprocated. And often it isn't. And when you're dealing with somebody inconsistent, again, in the workplace, it could be an inconsistent manager. The assumption is how they behaved yesterday, how they behaved last week. You expect them to behave that way today. And when they don't, you then start to feel that, oh, is there something wrong with me? Or you start harboring bad feelings, and they've gone about their day not even remembering that they've had this encounter with you, where you're now holding on to those feelings, can't even sleep at night because you're thinking, well, what did I do wrong? What can I do differently? I made this whole plan, and and it's about not taking on board their behaviors, because it's not down to it's basically not down to yourself.
Yes, exactly. So just bearing in mind that there is going to be a discrepancy in your expectations and the person's real reactions to things because the thermostat is broken, is so crucial. Otherwise, it's going to be leaving you second guessing things and trying to figure things out and trying to work out how can you be around them? What can you do when you're around them to prevent things from going pear-shaped? It's nothing to do with you. It's just that for whatever reason, their own internal thermostats for reacting to life or dealing with life is broken. Just wondering if anybody has any questions on anything we've covered so far. If you have questions, please do just place it in the chat, or if you feel like you just want to comment on some of the things we've said already, please feel free to also comment. Okay, but just want to check that it's all making sense. If it's all making sense, please can you just give us a thumbs up so we know that we are doing a good job out here. Obviously,
Says,
thank you, Marian. So you just said obviously, and nobody's
don't mind.
nobody putting thumbs up.
there. Thank you all.
Thank you. Okay, so the final strategy is called the clean line. So the clean line, and the idea with the clean line is that when you are dealing with difficult people, anything that is unclear will potentially cause a problem. Any stance you take that is a maybe will potentially cause a problem. So it's important that if they want you to make a decision, you are clear on your stance or on what you want to do. So if it's something that you want to say a no to, it's important to actually be able to work towards saying a no, or saying to them, if you can't say a no exactly, like we said in the last session, you can say to, also the session before that, you can say to them, okay, I can't answer you right now. Can I answer you in about a day's time, to give yourself time to think properly on what your stance is. So the idea of a clean line is that for difficult people, since they would always want to push the boundary, anything that just feels unclear feels like an invitation for them to try harder to get their way. I don't know if you can relate with this one also out here.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm sure many of you heard, like, no is a complete sentence. The reality for a lot of people is no is really difficult to say without then extending it with a, oh, but maybe, and as Wally said, if your no sounds like a maybe, you'll give it, it's almost like you're inviting people to step over your boundaries to say, oh, actually, thank you. Let me just open the door a little bit wider and come in and push those boundaries a bit more. But it really should be, and I never say no, maybe I'll look at that later, because then if you're a person that struggled to say no and you're allowing an opening for them to come back, instead of your mind thinking, oh, okay, now that's even be time to be able to come up with a reasonable response. Often you're there in this anxiety state thinking, oh my goodness, what am I going to say when they come back? And I don't want to do it, or haven't got capacity to do it, rather than say, actually, I don't have capacity to do that, or it's not within my interest to do that, or, and not, can you come back another time? And if you are in the workplace, what I used to do is I used to say, okay, well, this is what I'm working on now, which is I've been told is the priority. If you feel that your work is more of a priority, then you need to go and speak to Wally, who gave me that work, and the two of you negotiate. And then once you decide which work I need to do, then come back to me. But then I've now taken myself out of the equation. I'm no longer going to be pressured with two pieces of work that I just don't have capacity to do. But I'll be able to do one or the other, and it's for somebody else to decide. So it's having that ability to also push back is what
Yeah.
I'd say.
Yes, thank you very much. Now, what for a lot of people, the situation may be that the people in their lives have been used to them being unclear, and now you want to be different. You want to be more clear. You want to be able to pull the line, but it feels hard because they're all used to you being unclear. Sometimes you may need to train the person into gradually learning that you're going to have a stance. And so by initially saying to them, okay, I understand that this is what you want, maybe it will be, I'll be able to help you, but I can't help you today, but I'll help you next week. That gives a little bit of an objection. And then the goal then will be to gradually be working your way to actually being able to say, no, I can't help eventually. But because you have gradually trained them into into being comfortable with each different objection, so barriers that you've put in place, they eventually find it easier to take on board the no. Now, again, we're talking really about people within the continuum of difficult, but not necessarily to the point where they're being abusive, to like beating you up or doing things that are very dangerous. So those are kind of people that you may be able to sort of work into being able to see your clean line. Now, why am I talking about it like train them up? What we don't recognize is that as empaths, over time, the people in our lives get trained into taking advantage of us because of the approaches we take. It may be that you are the one who just chooses to clean up after everybody every time. You guess what people will be thinking in their mind later? They'll think, she'll clean it up. Don't worry, things will clean it up. You are over years training people to think that they can treat you in a particular way. And so sometimes when we start to embed some of those principles that we are teaching you to embed today, it becomes a shocker to people. People get shocked by it. And as a result, they push back harder initially. So in a way, what we're saying here is that we would expect to have some form of pushback if people have gotten used to a way of things being in a particular way. I'm not thinking of pushback. I'm thinking in terms of, I know here in the UK, we just assume not everybody here is from the UK. Everybody online is from the UK. Some people may be in America or different places. But in the UK, there's the benefit system. And so people who have been on the benefit system for long, if the government was to say to them, we're canceling the benefit system, they will all of a sudden feel like, this is my right you're taking away from me. And there'll be a huge lashback on the government. Now, me coming from Nigeria, I was thinking, you being given a benefit, that's nothing to do with your rights. It's something that the government is doing as a favor. That's maybe my Nigerian thing, and I won't want to fight back. But it's understandable for people here who have gotten used to that system to want to fight back. What does that have to do with what I'm describing? Unfortunately, if you have people in your life that has been trained into treating you in a particular way, they will almost feel like you creating these boundaries is you taking away their rights. When it's not necessarily that you're taking away their rights, but they will feel that way and they will push back because of it. Now, as I say to so many of my clients, when you see those pushbacks, this is a cue that you are doing the right things. some clients will start to feel like they're failing because they're somehow thinking that if to be successful in this process, the person should accept your boundaries and not fight back. When they fight back, it means they have not fully accepted, which means that you haven't done the boundary work properly. No. When they fight back, when they push back, that's hugely highlighting that what you're doing is successful. And the goal here would be now to persevere in the process and keep on embedding the boundaries, because what you're doing is you're retraining them into eventually accepting this. I know Arthur gave an example earlier on about the person who was bullying came back and still tried to show that he was still going to bully, but eventually it kind of died down. Emmanuel, I see you raising your hand.
Yeah, just want to ask this question. If you leading a team and there's maybe one particular member of the staff members who always try to undermine you, especially in a meeting, in a way of arguing or trying any question they ask, or you maybe any suggestion you kind of raise, they kind of try to challenge it in a way of raising an argument, and it becomes a pattern. How do you manage that person in the team?
Cool. This will be fun.
Mhm.
Thank you so much for that question. Just actually go to hand over to Althea, because Althea also may have a very good answer to that.
Can I just clarify? Do you say that the person is undermining you in meetings and even outside of meetings,
Yeah.
and anything that you say, they will almost like be dismissive of it?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. And have you spoken to this person about it on a one-to-one, quietly to one side?
Yeah. So such you speak to them one-to-one, they come across understanding. However, when in the meeting, it starts the game. So on one-to-one, they seem to kind of understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I just like they want what I pick up from them is they want that attention.
100%.
Yeah.
That's exactly what they get. That is exactly what they're craving. They're looking for that attention from everybody else, and they want to get that validation from everybody else. So it's almost like by you saying, look, actually what you're doing, I'm not in agreement with it. It's like you're no longer giving them that validation. So now when you're in the meeting, they will take every opportunity to assert their authority and their expertise to make it look like they are more important than you, or just to really, try and get some praise on themselves. People like that is very difficult when you're in a collective space to shut them down. But what you mustn't do is, one, fight back against them publicly, but you mustn't ever feel that actually I'm not going to speak because they've now dismissed me. And if they've been dismissive to you in a meeting, rather than come back as a counter attack, it would be to just address say, thank you for your point. Thank you for your point. You're not agreeing with them. Thank you for your point. I take that on board. And then you share your point. Yeah. And it's always, thank you for your point. I take that on board. And then you come with your argument. And if it's something completely different, that is fine. And then what you could also do is just say, is anybody else in agreement with that? Or does anyone else want to add any points to what I've just said? And so then publicly, they're now being dismissed. And if you continue to do that, as much as it doesn't feel good to them, they will start realizing, actually, I'm not going to keep playing this game in this meeting. But if you continue to allow them to do that, back to what Wally was saying, you're now enabling them. So they're going to say, actually, I can get away with it. That is what I see works, and that is what I would always support, that direction. So you're not saying to them, actually, I disagree with you. You're saying to them, thank you for your point. I take that on board, and then you come with your point. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. Thank you very much for,
Sure.
for in it. And I like the points. And thank you for raising that point, or thank you for your point, which is a very good start to kind of handle it. Thank you very much.
Okay. So,
Sorry.
yeah, so I was also going to just kind of add, if you think about everything that we have covered today, so we've covered the umbrella, we've covered the beige wall, we've covered the drill, we've covered actually, let me just show this next slide. So umbrella, and glass, the beige wall, the drill, the garden, the broken thermostat, the clean line. Now, if you're thinking of all of it, this is like a strategy that you can actually apply to just using some of what just out here has just described there, because you're coming to this person, you know that you're going to have a meeting, and this person is going to be in a meeting, which means the chances are that they're going to rain on you. In other words, their behavior that you've been experiencing is going to happen in that meeting already. So you're coming to the meeting with your umbrella already ready, because you don't want to take anything they do personally. One, you don't want to take it personally because you know that they're already a broken thermostat. So they're broken because they are this person, but you can never really tell where they will go with something, because you may say you may make a point that is clear as day for everybody, and they'll come from an angle that you didn't expect. But in your mind, you know, okay, this person is a broken thermostat. That's just going to happen. And then, as you are dealing with them in the meeting, you want to be the beige wall that is so plain, clear. There's nothing they can hang on to, just like out here. Think, oh yeah, I take what your point. Let's move on. Or does anybody else agree what she says or he says? If not, just move on. I'm being as plain and bland as possible, so there's nothing this person can hang on. Eventually, the person will just gradually taper off their behavior. But as long as these two things are happening, as long as they realize that your emotional demeanor is changing every time that they do these things, or as long as they realize that you're always calling them to talk to them afterwards, as long as they realize that you're giving them a lot of attention, that behavior is being rewarded. So it's going to keep on going. Now, the drill bit then means that before these meetings, you are maybe doing different things to practice the exact processes you're going to use with this person in the meeting. And then again, we have the clean line, which means that you're holding whatever boundary you're holding with no maybes, yes or no. So this whole system that we've gone through, if you embed it in your mind, it becomes a system that you can use to manage that person in reality. I'm hoping that sort of makes sense as well.
Yeah, it does make sense. Yeah, thanks for shedding light on or adding to what Archie has just said. So thanks very much.
Thank you so much for asking the question as well. I'm just wondering whether anybody else has a question on how this might be applicable to their own particular situations as well. Please feel free to ask. Or maybe we twist it a little bit. You can also just share your sense of how you might apply it to your own different situations, or maybe a situation of a friend you know of, how this might also work. That would also be helpful for the people who are here. Anybody? Any other people? Okay, I see no one raising their hands. So,
And Wally.
go.
Oh, and Emmanuel, I think you was about to speak as well. So just drawing to the chat. So just a conversation in the chat about saying sorry and the need to say sorry. And I think that's something that we tend to do. And as I said, as a recovering people pleaser, all my sentences used to start with, oh, sorry to interrupt, or sorry, can I just add, or sorry, do you want to find it? Or no, I can't do that, sorry, as if I have something to apologize for. For me, I believe that sorry is another way of you opening up your boundaries for someone to step over. So I think you have to be very mindful of how you use sorry and where you do it. And again, as you mentioned, being a habit, again, just going over the steps that Wally has gone through avoid saying that. Again, that whole, again, preparation, just being calm, those things will enable you to, all the habits, and sorry is not the only habit that many of us have. Many of those habits that we have can be reversed by just going through this process. So just we'll pray that. And I think Emmanuel went to say something after. You might want to add something, Wally.
Yeah. So just wanted to kind of say that in addition to this, again, for people who may not be aware, because some people will listen to this from Canada, from Australia, from different parts of the world, you may not necessarily be aware that in Britain, sorry is a very common habit. Sorry gets attached to almost everything. And unfortunately, just like Arthur is saying, it can become that thing that makes a person have a maybe crack that can wedge in. But as you're trying to sort of work the sorry out of your habit, we should also be aware of a particular trap. And actually, not just for the sorry alone, it is for everything that we've talked about today, trying to embed as habits. Sometimes when you are trying to learn a behavior, relearn a behavior, or turn a new behavior into a new habit, the pattern would be that initially you are going to fall into the habit. It's just what's going to happen. It's crucial that you do not get frustrated with yourself about this. It's crucial. And the reason I'm saying it's crucial, because you see, you're trying to embed a new habit. If you start becoming self-critical about not being able to do the habit, you're going to embed self-criticism around trying to learn the habit into the habit, and just becomes harder. So we want to sort of remind ourselves that this is a habit, new habit I'm learning, and it's all right that, okay, I forgot to do it right this time. But each time you remember that, oh, I was supposed to do that habit then, you are actually retraining the brain to learn to do that habit. I know that sounds weird, but eventually what happens is you start to do the habits within the experience. Eventually, even if all you do is catch yourself after you're falling into the trap again. So I say to people, I spend some time thinking, oh, I fell into that trap again. Okay, this is what I would do next time. I fall into that trap again. This is what I would do next time. But some strange reason, when you keep doing that, eventually, by just doing that alone, you start catching yourself before falling into the habit eventually. So beware of the trap of self-criticism for doing the habits, so that you don't embed self-criticism into the loop. Emmanuel, you're going to say something, is it?
Yeah. So what I wanted to say when you did ask about if we've got any examples, well, I think years back I was working with one government and speak to you in the presence of other colleagues in a harsh way. So the best way I handle this is I did invite the manager and said, well, can I have a one-to-one chat with you? And I did express the way he does make staff feel, and especially me, the way he talks to me, which is not kind of appropriate. And when I said that, I could see he was shocked, because he was shocked. And I think later on he did confess that I'm the first he has ever pointed to him how he does treat staff, because he never knew this is how people feel, because I did express the way I feel and the way my colleague also feel. And sometimes it makes people not to tend to quell in their shell instead of trying to listen to him. So he was kind of shocked, and he really apologized. And later he said, this is the first time somebody has approached me. And since then, his demeanor and his attitude towards staff members began to change. He was getting more warm towards others. So sometimes I feel being that assertive and, letting people feel the way you also feel, sometimes they might feel that is an acceptable way of, treating staff.
Thank you. I think it's a very good experience when you have someone who's able to take on that positive criticism, constructive criticism that allows them to change. I think that's a powerful experience to have. But unfortunately, sometimes the person may not be that kind of person who will take it on board. but still being able to kind of speak up is crucial. Just one thing to kind of highlight. I know sometimes having one-to-one with someone is important. Be mindful that the person you're having the one-to-one with is not the kind of person who would actually become even more manipulative, because there are situations where I've found where someone had a one-to-one with someone who was being difficult, and then they themselves now got into trouble because the person who they will have the one-to-one with to try and highlight that they're being difficult turned the whole thing around them, and then they started to be the one who got into investigation. So we just kind of be mindful as we're doing these things that we do it in a way that we also kind of keeping ourselves safe.
It's true.
Sorry, what was that?
I said that's true. Thank you for looking. I agree with you.
Yes, thank you so much.
And I would just add to that as well, Wally, because I think you made a couple of really valid points there, and particularly to the last one as well. Sometimes because it worked once, we feel that will just work across everything, and it's not always the case. And even if it does work, sometimes, and again, even to this process as well. One of the things which I was really glad what you said again earlier in terms of creating this habit, because what will happen is you'll do something, it might not work. I forgot to do that. Let me do that, and then it will work, and you'll feel really good about yourself. And then the next time it might not, and so you'll give up and just think, oh, it doesn't work. Well, actually, no, you just need to keep going, and you also start to create a resilience for yourself as well, because sometimes it's almost like when you say no to certain things, you're just crying with guilt. You're just like, oh my goodness, maybe I should have said yes, And this person has kind of accepted the no. They're a bit upset that you said no. They've gone about their day. You've gone to bed. You're thinking about it. You're really upset. You've come back to work and you say, oh, I said no yesterday. And they're like, when did you say no? You've now spent 2 or 3 days harboring over it. So it's really important that, one, understand that it's a process, that sometimes it will work and sometimes it won't work to where you expect it to work, the response you get, but just to keep going and keep going. But also understand that some people do not have a level of self-awareness, so the reactions you get may not be what you expect.
Yes.
Just to take that into consideration.
Yes.
That's not about the process, it's about the person. And back to what Wally said right at the beginning of this session, it's not about changing other people.
Yes. And just kind of highlights to Emmanuel's example. I think it's a great thing when someone is able to take on a criticism and actually change, right? So you also know that actually, so for some people, they were not meaning to be mean or horrible, but for whatever reason, they didn't realize, they didn't have enough self-awareness to realize that what they're doing is causing people pain, right? So for that example, I mean, I would love to be managing a team where they feel comfortable to come and tell me what I'm doing is causing pain. Because I would hate so much to want to be that person who's causing pain, obviously, and then I want to change that. So it's great to kind of have that kind of experience, which will also give you confidence as a person to know that you can actually go ahead and ask people. Michelle, I was just reading the point you made there. I'm not sure, was that a point or question? Do you want to jump on the mic and just tell us exactly what was it? A point? Is it a question? Is it a person? Can you ask the question?
Yeah, it's a question.
Okay.
So if you said to say no, to say the word no is hard, but the way you say it can soften it and make it more. I'm trying to say, when you're putting it in a text, no, and you don't give, no, I'm sorry, no, I can't do it at this time, no, I explain until you end up saying yes. So how do you say no when you say no in a test, is it always harsh? Will a person receive it as a harsh thing?
Okay, so I think it's important to look at this again in a bit like a skill that we are trying to develop, like a muscle we're trying to build, and not look at it as a black and white process, because it's not as easy as that. If you're not someone who's comfortable with just saying no, to just come from not saying no to being able to say no. So yes, some of the strategies that we're highlighting today, that we're saying, okay, don't say sorry. That will be the goal. That will be the kind of gold standard. It may be that you are having to start from, sir, I'm sorry, I can't do that for now, instead of saying no. So you're starting from somewhere that feels a little bit softer. They may be able to sort of retaliate or push back, but initially for you, because you know that before you were not even saying this, I'm sorry, I can't do that before. That was even hard to do before. But now you're able to say that, you get comfortable saying that, then you move to the next step in the ladder, which may be, I can't do that without saying that I'm sorry. This is just an idea. But the idea here being is that for you got to design what are the comfortable stages up to the being able to say no, full stop, do you have, and then gradually start to allow yourself to say those things up till you get to full no. Now, the question is, no harsh? No can be harsh, definitely. If I'm just thinking, if my sister was to ask me, oh, Wale, please, can you help me build a website? And I just put there a capital no. I'm going with an exclamation mark. I know this is me exaggerating it, Mom, but that particular no would feel like an angry no, won't it? So no can definitely be harsh.
No,
And
so
sorry?
you get capitalize it, so it's gonna if you put no in small letters, does that soften it then?
That may soften it a little bit. You may put no with a slight explanation of no. I'm not going to be available then. Maybe softer, but again, it all depends on the context of what is being asked. If they ask you, please, can you come and look after my children tomorrow? And you said, and before you had said, no, I'll not be able to do that this time around. And then they ask you again, then you have, they're almost giving you a passport to say just no alone. Does that make sense?
They ask you again for the same thing.
For the same thing, you've already answered this there. You've already answered, but they're asking you again. Then you know that, okay, this person is pushing the boundary.
So if you said, can you look after my children Thursday? And you say, no, I can't do Thursday. And then the following Thursday they ask and you say, no, I can't do Thursday. And then the following Tuesday they ask and do you say, no, I can't do Tuesday, or do you still say no?
Okay. So again, this depends on you. Do you have the capacity? If it's true you don't have the capacity, then you'll be pushing towards saying, no, I can't do Tuesday. If you have the capacity and it's something that is within you, something you love doing, nothing says you shouldn't say yes. However, if there's someone who's consistently trying, you know that this person is consistently just pushing this task on you, consistently. And if there's someone who never actually takes back, you can't push tasks on them as well. So you have things that you want them to do as well. It's almost like a one-sided way. Then this is someone that is a candidate that you need to train into respecting the boundary. So that kind of person, then you might give a full no, just a no, with no questions around, no explanations around, because the no just stands on its own. So again, it all depends on the circumstance.
So the real question was, in all circumstances, no does not necessarily mean it's harsh. It just means
Yes. No doesn't necessarily mean it's harsh. Yes. Has that answered your question, Michelle?
it has.
Thank you very much.
Can I also and
Yes,
I would
okay.
definitely say we overthink no and how the person's going to receive it. So I definitely believe that as individuals, you have to get comfortable with saying no. And it is a process. It does take a while because we get very uncomfortable when we tell people no and we think, oh my goodness, we'll let them down. Again, it's back to that when I said about giving people empathy who don't necessarily deserve that empathy, and it is being able to say no and feeling comfortable and sitting with it and then just letting go of it.
Yes.
It does come with creating that as a habit, but it is one that will give you so much freedom when you get used to doing it.
Yes, yes. And also remember, we did a session on guilt. For some people, the barrier to being able to say no comfortably is guilt, feeling of guilt. So please, if you feel guilty a lot when you're trying to say no, I think it's very crucial you watch that session, because it covers a lot of things you need to do to start managing guilt properly around being able to manage your boundaries as well. Tara, you said you're wondering if we say sorry for certain people, we save sorry for certain people, or not say it at all. I'm thinking of a hard, fast rule. I'm thinking of myself. I love my children. I really, really love my children. And if my daughter calls me to ask for something, I know she's calling me because she really needs that thing in that right time. She doesn't call me just out of the blue, just try and get stuff off me. So, but if I can't do it at that point where she's asking that she's in real need, I feel like I have to say, I'm really sorry, Tammy. I can't do I can't afford to do that right now. And she takes it face value. She doesn't argue back about that. But I know that she doesn't take advantage of that. I know my kids, if I say no, I can't do something, they back off immediately. They just take it. Now, if I had a kid who pushes, then I'll be embedding the strategy there as well. I see, Happy, why are you smiling?
I am laughing because I'm thinking about your children, not thinking of mine. I find that funny that I also do find it funny that you say that you find it hard to say no as well. But yes, I would definitely agree. I think I don't know if I would save the sorry or the no's, but I think that we genuinely will find it difficult to say no to some people, like whether it be our children, our loved ones, or again, even that manager, because we think we're going to get that promotions.
And I think for me, the reason I would put the sorry is I'm extremely sensitive to doing anything or saying anything that will paint a damage on my children. There is scientific studies that has highlighted that actually children who don't hear no's at all, they suffer in full stop. So it's important that your children can hear a lot of no's from you. But again, the color of the no is different. Every no doesn't mean the same thing. Just like we said, capital letter no with an exclamation mark is dangerous for children, particularly. Can you imagine, like you're doing them a harm? You can just imagine the child just spending the whole week thinking and feeling, shaking in their boots to come and ask dad something. That's not the kind of thing. So we don't want to embed harm on our kids. However, if for whatever reason, because we have been an empath, we've trained the children to overtake from us, to manipulate us and abuse us, we need to kind of use the strategies to kind of start embedding no, and we may need to kind of use the harsher no in those kind of situations. So again, so it all depends on the circumstance. What do you think about that, Alfie?
It's a difficult one because I don't think that children are told no enough, and then they go into workplaces and they really suffer when they're told no, and they go out of their place of comfort, whether that be the home or the school environment that they're used to, that nurtures them in a way that they're not allowed to be competitive. And so I definitely think not hearing no enough is very damaging. I think at the very least in the home, and I'm not saying that I didn't tell my children no, I can assure you that there was definitely, I think with the first child, he really heard no. The second child, I learned from that. The second child heard no a lot more often. But I think it's about balance, but I think it's also about understanding the outcome that we're creating. What is it that we're actually enabling? If I'm enabling my children to go into a world where they're just going to get eaten up because they didn't understand boundaries and that people can say no, and that they'll become the entitled label that you hear often for Gen Z, then I feel like I might be doing a disservice. I equally feel like when I was that people pleaser, when I wasn't telling people no, my colleagues, my boss no, I was enabling them to keep giving me more work, to create this overwhelm that I had, caused me to be sick and to end up with being blind and all the things that I've spoken about previously. So I think we shouldn't think about the no as for now. We need to think, well, what is the reaction of my no? If I don't say no, what is that going to cause? What is that going to cost me? As I said, that cost me my eyesight, it cost me going paralyzed because I just kept saying yes and burnt myself out. What is me not saying no to my children going to then cause them to face when they step into environments where people do say no? How are they going to then react? So sometimes the no should come with a no, and this is the reason I'm explaining to you no. And sometimes you're going to go into environments where, well, this is going to be the result of no. So that's my take on it. I don't think people realize how powerful the word no is.
Yes.
And I think and that's why I say we have to get comfortable saying it. I'm not 100% comfortable saying no all the time. I'm being completely honest. I'd say recovering people pleaser. So for me to say no in every situation, I'd be lying if I said that I did. But I say it a lot more often than I did, and it brings me the peace that I need.
Yes. So essentially what we're saying here is the idea of no is actually a necessity in life. This is a weird thing. It's a necessity for us to be able to say it. It's a necessity for the people in our lives to be able to hear it. And as we're growing from being a child, being able to be comfortable with no's means that when we try different things in life and it fails, we can still get up and try again because we've gotten a lot of no's enough to the point that failure doesn't faze us. And if you think about a lot of people who succeed, even in the financial world, the people who succeed the most are the people who failed the most, are the people who've heard the most no's. If you think of people who are successful at selling, that are the people who have heard the most no's. And the people who don't succeed at selling, for example, they're the people who they don't want to hear any no at all because the no is overwhelming. So when we think about it this way, that actually when I tell a person no, I'm doing them a favor because I'm helping them learn about how to cope with no, first of all, but I'm also helping them be better at dealing with life as a whole. So perhaps being able to look at it that way helps to shift the pain that we feel from kind of saying no. So that brings us to the end of the presentation today. But just want to kind of highlight for those who may be watching this later, or if you're new here today and you don't know that we have our pattern room. So the pattern room is the community that we are putting together. The idea of pattern is that we're helping people learn to overcome the difficult patterns in their lives, the patterns that create overwhelm, the patterns that bring negativity, the patterns that bring pain, and the patterns that cause pain to then last generations. So the goal of the pattern room is to help people really to embed behaviors that make them be able to thrive and be the kind of life they really want to live. So the community at the moment is in WhatsApp. I think Tara said earlier that she's not in WhatsApp, so it's potentially we may be extending the community beyond WhatsApp just to make it more accessible to people who want to be in the community. And so in this community, I want you to be able to ask questions. I want you to be able to give your own opinions of questions people ask as well. It's a place where you come and just feel that you're not alone as we're trying to really break through the puzzle of life. So if you have WhatsApp, if you're already on WhatsApp, you can use the QR code or just text me and I'll add you to the group, to the community. And for those who are already in the community, thank you for joining the community. But yes, please engage more. Ask questions. I'm going to be putting some polls up for the next set of topics that we're going to be covering, because I want people to have a choice in the kind of things we cover so that we are really covering the things you want. If you already have an idea of something you want and you're not in the community, please just email me to give me ideas of things you would want us to cover so that we are really covering things that serve you. Arthur, any final words?
No, just really want to say thank you to everyone who's came today and just who really engaged. And these frameworks are really there to help and support you. And we have all created habits that seem like they've been with us forever, but they can be reversed. And it is really a case of it's not a case of we're just showing you these for the sake of it. They really do work. So just take your time and go through it and just keep at it, keep persevering. But again, thank you again for those in the chat and just coming off mute to just share different scenarios. The pattern room is for that as well. So even if you're going through at the week and you think, I really wish I'd asked that question, or you really want a response, or you're going through something, just drop it in the pattern room. It's a space, it's a safe space, and we will give you a response as soon as we can as well.
Cool. So on that note, I want to thank you all for being here. And please, same time next week, join us as we cover the next topic. I'm going to be sharing again just after this, be sharing some ideas of what we can cover. And people, please feel free to either say yes or no. And that'll be all. So want to thank you all and wishing you all a good week ahead. Bye for now.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you for the section.
Thank you, Emmanuel.